Friends, before we delve into the depths of ancient wisdom and begin this important conversation, I want to ask for your support. Please subscribe to the channel and like this video right now. Your activity helps algorithms understand that this content has value and allows us to deliver this knowledge to those who, perhaps, are right now looking for a way to achieve inner peace. Thank you very much. And now, let's honestly look at our reality. Imagine your typical morning. Most likely, even before your feet touch the floor, your hand is already automatically reaching under the pillow or to the bedside table in search of your smartphone. The bright light of the screen hits your eyes, and you instantly fall into an abyss of other people's opinions, news, and retouched photos. We check notifications, scroll through feeds, look at other people's lives, without even beginning to live our own. This state has become so habitual that we have stopped noticing its painful nature. Specialists call this digital neurosis. This is not just a habit, it's a fundamental change in the functioning of our psyche. It's a constant background anxiety, the fear of missing out, an obsessive desire to be connected 24 hours a day, and an endless, exhausting comparison of oneself to the idealized avatars of other people. We have become hostages of a dopamine loop, where every like or comment is a microdose of pleasure, and the absence of notifications is a cause for anxiety and feelings of loneliness. Our mind is fragmented, attention shattered into thousands of pieces by short videos, and the ability for deep concentration and reflection melts away with each page refresh. We live in an age of attention economy, where the brightest minds on the planet work to keep our eyes glued to screens. But can a philosophy born in ancient Greece and Rome more than 2,000 years ago provide us with an answer to the challenges of the digital age? It would seem, what could Seneca, the former slave Epictetus, or Emperor Marcus Aurelius know about the problems of a person stuck in a social network? Of course, they didn't know what the internet or an algorithmic feed was, but they perfectly understood human nature. They knew what envy was, what vanity was, what the noise of the crowd was, and how difficult it is to maintain inner strength when the outside world tries to tear you apart. Stoicism is not a set of dusty theoretical dogmas. It is perhaps the most practical and robust operating system for the human mind ever created. The Stoics taught the main art that we have lost today, the art of self-mastery. They developed techniques of mental defense precisely for situations where external circumstances get out of control. Their philosophy is built on the dichotomy of control, the ability to clearly distinguish what depends on us and what does not. Global news, the behavior of other people online, the number of likes under a post, all this is beyond our power. But our judgment about it, our reaction, and most importantly, our decision to pick up the phone or leave it face down, that is something only we control. In this series, we will not urge you to delete all accounts and go live in the forest. That is an escape, not a victory. Instead, we will use the powerful tools of Stoic philosophy as an antidote. We will learn to apply ancient practices to modern technologies, to stop being slaves to algorithms and become masters of our own minds again. Ancient philosophy is the best cure for digital madness because it treats not the symptoms, but the very cause, our attitude towards the world and ourselves. Before we begin to apply the tools of Stoicism to our digital reality, we need to understand the foundation upon which this philosophy stands. The history of Stoicism is not just a boring list of dates. It is a chronicle of human resilience that began with a catastrophe.
It all started around 300 BC when a wealthy Phoenician merchant named Zeno of Citium was shipwrecked near Athens. In an instant, he lost all his cargo, all his fortune, and his accustomed way of life. Finding himself in a foreign city without means of subsistence, instead of falling into despair, he went into a bookstore, began reading about Socrates, and asked where he could find people like him. Zeno began to preach his doctrine not in closed elite schools, but in a public place, at the painted Stoa, or Stoa Poikile. This was a covered colonnade in the center of Athens, where people sheltered from the sun and rain. It was from the word Stoa that the school's name, Stoicism, originated. It is important to understand this. Stoicism was originally a philosophy for the real world, for the marketplace, not for an academic ivory tower. Zeno taught that the world is unpredictable and chaotic, like the sea that swallowed his ship. We cannot control external events, be it a storm, an economic collapse, or in our case, newsfeed algorithms and other people's comments. But we have absolute power over how we interpret these events and how we react to them. Centuries later, the center of influence shifted from Greece to Rome. The Romans, a pragmatic and active people, adapted Stoicism, turning it into a tool for survival amidst political intrigues, tyranny, and wars. Here, three giants of late Stoicism emerge, whose works have reached us and whose voices sound surprisingly modern. The first of them is Seneca, the wealthiest man in Rome, a playwright, advisor to Emperor Nero. Seneca's life was full of contradictions. He preached moderation while possessing vast wealth and wrote about peace of mind while being at the epicenter of deadly palace intrigues. For us, Seneca is important because he reflected a lot on time. In his treatise On the Shortness of Life, he says that life is long if one knows how to use it, but we waste it on meaningless pursuits. Replace his description of Roman festivities with modern doom-scrolling, and you will see that the problem of wasting time has not changed in 2,000 years. The second key figure is Epictetus. Unlike Seneca, he was born a slave. His name literally translates as acquired. Epictetus endured the cruelty of masters, suffered an injury that left him lame for life, but it was he who formulated the most rigorous and effective doctrine of Stoicism. He taught that the only thing we have is our will. His famous dichotomy of control states there are things dependent on us and things not dependent on us. The body, property, reputation, ranks, these are external, they do not belong to us. But our judgments, desires, and aversions, these are ours. Epictetus showed that one can be a slave in chains yet remain free inside, and one can be an emperor yet remain a slave to one's passions. In the context of social networks, Epictetus is the one who reminds us, your mood should not depend on the number of likes, because likes are external. The third figure is Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, the most powerful man on the planet in his time. He spent his entire life on military campaigns, defending the empire's borders from barbarians, enduring plague epidemics and betrayals by loved ones. At night, in his tent, he wrote a diary that was not intended for publication. These notes, known to us as Meditations or To Myself, are a unique document. It is a conversation of a man with himself about how to remain dignified, just, and calm when the whole world around him is going mad. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that the opinion of the crowd is fickle and worthless, that glory is just smoke, and that a person's sole task is to help others and act according to reason. From Zeno, who lost everything, to Marcus Aurelius, who owned the whole world, Stoicism evolved, retaining its core essence. It is a philosophy not about suppressing emotions and turning into stone.
It is a philosophy about the correct use of reason to navigate an unpredictable world. The Stoics developed mental techniques that allowed them to maintain sanity in the face of disasters, tyrants, and death. And if these tools helped them maintain composure under threat of execution or during a plague, they will certainly help us cope with anxiety from notifications and informational noise. Now that we understand the historical context and the scale of the personalities at its origins, we can move on to specific practices and see how exactly the teachings of the ancient Romans and Greeks apply to the structure of the modern internet. So we have arrived at the most important tool in the Stoics' arsenal, which is essential for our survival in the digital space. This is the dichotomy of control. Epictetus began his Enchiridion with a simple but fundamental truth. Some things are up to us and others are not. In antiquity, this referred to the body, property, reputation, and public offices. But if Epictetus were alive today, he would undoubtedly add recommendation algorithms, the number of likes on your post, and toxic comments from strangers to that list. Let's break this down in detail, because this is where the cause of most of our neuroses lies. When you open a social network, you enter a territory where you do not set the rules of the game. The algorithm of TikTok, YouTube, or Instagram is a complex mathematical model whose goal is not your enlightenment or happiness, but to keep your attention at all costs. The content of your feed, the order of news, the virality of one video or another, all of this is beyond your control. These are external circumstances, just like the weather outside the window. Being angry that an algorithm feeds you annoying content is as pointless as shouting at the rain. However, the problem with modern man is that we confuse algorithmic output with our own choice. We think we decided to watch those 50 short videos in a row. We think our mood soured on its own, and not because the neural network specifically selected content that causes anxiety or envy, simply because we react more actively to such emotions.
Here, there is a substitution of concepts. We mistake manipulation for free will. Stoicism teaches us to draw a strict line. What truly depends on us in this equation? Only our impulse to act and our judgment about what is happening depends on us. Your will manifests the moment you decide whether to pick up the phone. Your will is the ability to stop and ask yourself, am I watching this because I want to, or because the app's design exploits my dopamine system? To distinguish between algorithms and your own will means to realize that you are not responsible for what appears on your screen, but you bear full and undivided responsibility for your reaction to it. If you see a post that causes anger, a Stoic would say, the image itself on the screen is external. It is not within my power, but my feeling of anger is a product of my judgment, and that is my territory. The practice of the dichotomy of control in the digital environment requires constant vigilance. You must learn to see the newsfeed not as a reflection of reality, but as a stream of external data that is indifferent to you. As soon as you separate yourself from the algorithm, you stop being a passive consumer. You reclaim your agency. You begin to understand that your value does not depend on reach, and your peace of mind should not depend on what emotion the platform is trying to sell you at this very second. This is the first step to not losing your mind, to recognize that the digital storm rages outside, but whether to let it into your mind is a decision that fortunately still depends only on you. Seneca, one of the greatest thinkers of Stoicism, left us the treatise On the Shortness of Life, which today reads as if it were written specifically for the age of smartphones and endless newsfeed scrolling.
His central idea sounds like a judgment on modern man. We are not given a short life, but we ourselves make it so. We are not poor in time, we simply use it wastefully. Think about how you treat your money. If a stranger approached you on the street and asked for a portion of your salary, you would most likely be indignant or walk past. You protect your boundaries, your possessions, and your savings. But when it comes to time, the only resource that cannot be replenished, we become incredibly generous. We give away hours of our lives right and left, giving them to social media algorithms, to bloggers we don't even know, and to arguments and comments that have no significance whatsoever. Seneca wrote that people are thrifty in preserving their property, but as soon as it comes to spending time, they become the greatest spendthrifts precisely in the one thing where greed is a virtue. In the context of social networks, this observation becomes disturbingly accurate. Every time you open an app just to kill 5 minutes and come to your senses an hour later, you haven't just lost 60 minutes, you have given away a part of your life that you will never be able to reclaim. Imagine that at birth you were given a huge but finite bank account, holding not money but hours. You don't know the exact balance, but you see the counter relentlessly ticking backward. Would you, in such a case, invest this precious capital in watching other people's breakfasts or funny cat videos that you'll forget in a second? The cost of every hour on social media is not just lost productivity, it is a stolen opportunity. It is an unread book, an unhad conversation with a loved one, an unrealized project, or simply a missed moment of silence in which you could have heard your own thoughts. Seneca warns us about busy idleness, a state where a person is constantly occupied with something, but these activities lack meaning and depth. Social networks create a perfect illusion of this busyness. We think we are absorbing information, that we are connected to the world, but in reality, we are just allowing external noise to drown out our own lives. Stoicism does not call us to completely abandon technology or embark on digital asceticism. However, Seneca would insist on strict accounting. He would urge us every evening to ask ourselves, how much time today did I spend consciously, and how much was stolen from me? If we start treating every hour spent on the phone as a real transaction, where our very life serves as currency, our behavior will change. We will become stingy with likes and greedy for real experience, because in the end, life is long enough if one knows how to use it, but it flies by instantly if we let it slip through our fingers while our eyes are glued to the screen. Let's delve into one of the most insidious traps of modernity, which we often don't notice because it has become a habitual background noise in our lives. We live in an age of attention economy, where the main currency is not dollars or euros, but seconds of your concentration and the focus of your gaze. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, often wrote in his diaries about the concept of the inner citadel. This is a metaphor for the inviolable space of your mind, that deep part of the soul where external storms and the chaos of the world cannot penetrate, unless you yourself open the gates. For a Stoic, this citadel is a stronghold of freedom and tranquility. However, modern social media algorithms and aggressive advertising strategies are not just random external irritants, they are high-tech siege weapons designed by the best engineers and psychologists with one single goal: to breach the walls of your citadel, capture your attention, and implant artificial desires there.
The Stoics always clearly distinguished between natural bodily needs and false opinions imposed by society. The attention economy thrives precisely on the deliberate mixing of these concepts.
Advertising works by creating a sense of happiness deficit within us. You are constantly being told that you are not good enough, not successful enough, not smart or beautiful enough without a certain product, course, or gadget. This is a direct attack on your Stoic self-sufficiency. When you mindlessly scroll through your feed and allow vivid images to dictate what you desire, you are effectively handing over the keys to your fortress to strangers. You are allowing external, indifferent things to control your inner state, disrupting your ataraxia, or peace of mind. Seneca warned us thousands of years ago that slavery comes in many forms, and the most shameful of them is self-imposed slavery. By consuming content that provokes envy, greed, or the fear of missing out, we voluntarily put on the shackles of dissatisfaction. So how do we protect our inner citadel in these aggressive conditions? The answer lies in the Stoic discipline of assent. You must realize that you cannot control the presence of advertising on the internet. That is beyond your power. It is an external circumstance. But you have absolute and tyrannical power over whether to give assent to this impression entering your mind. Imagine that your attention is a spotlight in a dark room. In the attention economy, giant corporations try to snatch the controls of this spotlight from your hands to direct its light onto their products and ideologies. Your task as a practitioner of Stoicism is to seize the initiative and hold these controls firmly. When you see a persistent offer or the perfectly curated life of an influencer, use the power of the pause. Stop and ask yourself, does this desire make me more free and virtuous, or is it just another chain binding me to the external world? Remember that every time you deliberately avert your gaze from an advertisement and return to your own thoughts and goals, you are not just saving money. You are strengthening the walls of your inner citadel, preserving sovereignty over the only thing you truly possess, your mind. Imagine a situation. You publish a photo or a post into which you poured your soul. A minute passes, then 2, then 10. You refresh the page again and again. If there are many likes, you feel a rush of euphoria. If there are few or none at all, your mood drops and an unpleasant whisper of doubt arises in your head. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not interesting to anyone. Welcome to a trap that the Stoics recognized thousands of years before the invention of the internet. This is the trap of external validation, and today it has become more dangerous than ever. In this section, we will analyze why chasing likes and shares is, from a Stoic perspective, voluntary slavery, and how to reclaim your freedom. Let's start with a fundamental principle. Epictetus taught us the dichotomy of control. There are things that depend on us and things that do not. Your creativity, your thoughts, the quality of your text, or the beauty of your photograph, these are within your power. But as soon as you press the publish button, the result ceases to belong to you. The reaction of algorithms, the mood of your followers, the number of hearts under a post, all of this is in the external zone, in the zone of what the Stoics called indifferent. When we tie our self-perception to the number of likes, we make a fatal mistake. We hand over the keys to our happiness into the hands of the crowd. And the crowd, as Marcus Aurelius noted, is fickle, capricious, and often unreasonable. He wrote, "Why do you need the praise of people who curse themselves 3 times a day?" Think about this. We seek approval from people we often don't even know, and who themselves are most likely scrolling through their feed in a state of anxiety or boredom. Their like is not a deep assessment of your personality. It's an automatic flick of a finger lasting a fraction of a second.
Is it worth building your self-esteem on such a fragile foundation? Stoicism offers us a harsh but sobering perspective. The craving for fame and approval is a form of madness. Marcus Aurelius compared the desire for glory to the desire to immortalize one's name among those who will soon die themselves and forget everything. In the digital world, this is even more evident. The life of a social media post is measured in hours, sometimes even minutes. Seeking the moaning of life in viral reach is like trying to hold water in your hands. It will still slip away. But the problem is not just the futility of these efforts. The problem is that dependence on external validation corrupts our character. If you write or film for likes, you will inevitably start catering to the audience. You will start saying what they want to hear, not what you actually think. You will put on a mask. Seneca warned that whoever is too concerned with how they appear in the eyes of others loses their true face. You turn into an actor who is afraid to leave the stage because without applause, they cease to exist for themselves. How do you break this vicious circle? The Stoic answer is simple but requires practice. You need to shift your focus from the result to the process, from external approval to an internal standard of quality. Ask yourself, would I publish this if I knew no one would like it? If the answer is yes, then you are acting freely. It means you are sharing it because you consider it valuable, true, or beautiful. This action comes from your inner truth. If the answer is no, if without the guarantee of approval, the action loses meaning, then you are controlled by vanity and you are not free. Practice indifference to numbers. Let likes be just statistics, dry data, like the weather outside the window. If it rains, you take an umbrella, but you don't take the rain personally. The same goes for reactions on social media. 1,000 likes don't make you better. 0 likes don't make you worse. Your value as a person is unchangeable and does not depend on a server in California. True approval, the only one that matters to a Stoic, is the approval of your own reason. To know that you acted correctly, that you were honest, that you expressed yourself with dignity, that is the source of true peace. When you become your own chief judge, the need for digital pats on the back disappears. You gain autonomy. Next time, when your hand reaches to check notifications in anticipation of a dopamine dose, stop. Remember the words of Marcus Aurelius. All this is a moment, both he who praises and he who is praised. Return to yourself. Leave the external world to the external world. Your fortress is within. Let's turn to one of the most powerful figures in Stoicism, Epictetus, a man who knew about slavery not from books. He was born a slave, lived in chains, and according to tradition, his leg was broken by a cruel master. But it was he, a former bondsman, who taught the most influential people of Rome what true freedom is. For Epictetus, freedom was not merely a legal status or the absence of shackles. It was an exceptional state of mind. He asked, "Who then is a free person?" And he answered, "One who lives as they wish, whom no one can compel or hinder, whose desires are always fulfilled, and whose aspirations know no obstacles." And now, look at your smartphone. If we apply Epictetus's criteria to our modern life, most of us today have voluntarily put on digital shackles that bind us more tightly than any iron. Epictetus gave us a chillingly accurate definition of power and subjugation, which perfectly describes our dependence on social networks. He said, "Do you want to know who your master is? Look at who controls what you desire or what you fear. He who has the power to give this to you or take it away from you is your master." Reflect deeply on this.
If your mood in the morning depends on the number of likes under yesterday's photo, then your master is the faceless opinion of the crowd. If you experience irrational anxiety when you haven't checked the newsfeed for a long time, or when you see a flashing message indicator, then your master is an algorithm specifically designed by engineers to retain your attention. You are afraid of missing something important. You desire social approval, and as long as these fears and desires are external, you do not belong to yourself. We are accustomed to thinking that we are users, and the phone is just a convenient tool. But a Stoic would look at it differently. If the tool dictates when you wake up, what to feel, and on what to spend the hours of your only life, then who is truly the tool here? Epictetus taught that as long as we tie our well-being to things that do not depend on us, we inevitably remain in slavery. Likes, comments, reach, others' successes in the feed, global news, all of this, according to the dichotomy of control, is external. It is not within our power. By giving these things our emotions and time, we literally hand over the remote control of our mind into someone else's hands. We become puppets, whose strings lead to the servers of giant corporations. Smartphone addiction is slavery in the most philosophical sense, because it deprives us of prohairesis, our moral will, and the ability to consciously choose a reaction. When the sound trigger of a notification goes off and your hand reaches for your pocket automatically without conscious thought, you are not free at that moment. It is a reflex, not the choice of a rational being. Epictetus urged us to reclaim mastery over our own mind at all costs. He said that no one can take away our will except ourselves. Freedom begins the moment you can hear the phone vibrate and calmly decide not to look at it, because right now you are engaged in something more important for your soul. Freedom is the ability to say no to an impulse. Therefore, next time you pick up your phone, ask yourself in Epictetus's words, who is the master in this situation now? I, using this screen for my purposes, or the algorithm which tugs at the strings of my dopamine, making me desire what I do not need and fear what does not matter? We turn to one of the most powerful and beautiful practices of Stoicism called the view from above. Imagine a typical situation. You open the comments section and see something that causes an instant flash of anger. Someone is wrong on the internet. Someone insulted your tastes or wrote outright foolishness under your post. Physiologically, you are already ready for battle. Your pulse quickens, your attention narrows to the size of your smartphone screen, and this argument now seems like the most important event in the world. It is at this moment that the Stoics advise embarking on a mental journey. Close your eyes for a second and mentally detach from your body. Look at yourself from the outside. There you are, sitting in a room or standing in the subway, hunched over a glowing rectangle. Now ascend higher. You see your house, the street, your city, full of millions of other people, each immersed in their microscopic problems and worries. Ascend even higher into the stratosphere and look at the planet as a whole. From here, you cannot see national borders nor clothing brands, much less the text of that ill-fated comment. From this cosmic perspective, any internet drama, any heated debate about politics, gadgets, or cinema turns into the invisible scurrying of ants on a tiny clod of dirt flying in the endless icy void. Marcus Aurelius often used this technique to realize the insignificance of human ambitions and grievances in the face of eternity and the vast cosmos. Apply this to social networks.
Ask yourself, looking from this imagined height, will this Twitter thread have any significance in a month, in a year, in a century? Most likely it will be forgotten by tomorrow lunchtime when the algorithm offers a new reason for indignation. The view from above cures us of the myopia of the moment. It reminds us that the universe is vast and your time in it is catastrophically limited, and to waste this priceless, irreplaceable resource on proving your point to an anonymous user with a cat avatar is a crime against your own reason. As soon as you truly grasp this scale, anger dissipates on its own, replaced by calm and gentle irony, allowing you to simply close the tab and engage in something truly important, without getting involved in a battle that you cannot win anyway. Imagine a Roman emperor who rules half the world, yet daily faces betrayal, slander, and open hatred. Marcus Aurelius did not have a Twitter or YouTube account, but he knew perfectly well what haters were. In his time, these were envious senators and rebellious generals, but the mechanism of human hatred has remained the same. When you open comments and see insults or senseless malice there, your first reaction is to defend yourself, to return blow for blow, to prove your rightness. But Stoicism offers a completely different, counterintuitive approach. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that if someone despises me, that is his problem, and my only concern is not to do or say anything that would deserve contempt. Think about how powerful this paradigm shift is. An insult exists not when it is spoken or written, but only when you accept it. If you refuse to accept this emotional message, it remains with the one who sent it. Online trolling is an attempt to unbalance you, to make you dance to someone else's tune. A Stoic, however, looks at a troll with clinical interest, as a doctor looks at a patient. Aurelius reminds us that people who insult others often do so out of their own ignorance or inner pain. To be angry at them is like being angry at fire for being hot, or at a fig tree for exuding sap. That is their nature. To expect the internet to be a place full only of kindness and understanding means to contradict reality. And while we are talking about how to remain calm in the digital storm, I want to ask you to do one simple action that helps our community grow. If these ideas resonate with you, right now subscribe to the channel and like this video. This is the best way to show algorithms that sensible content is needed by people and to support us in the fight against that very informational noise. Returning to Marcus Aurelius, remember his great phrase, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." When you engage in an argument in the comments, when you allow anger to seize your fingers on the keyboard, you become just like your hater. You descend to their level. Aurelius used a beautiful metaphor about an emerald. He said that an emerald does not become worse for not being praised, and does not lose its value if someone curses it. Your value is not determined by the number of likes or the content of a poisonous comment from an anonymous user. Your value is your character and your actions. Therefore, next time you face digital aggression, use the Stoic pause. Do not react instantly. Tell yourself, this opinion is external. It has no power over my mind if I myself do not give it that power. Let the haters make noise. It is just wind blowing outside the walls of your inner fortress, and it cannot move the stones of your tranquility. We approach one of the most insidious traps of the modern world, which makes us feel unhappy for no apparent reason. Every time you open Instagram, you voluntarily enter a hall of distorted mirrors. Here, social comparison operates at maximum speed, and Stoics, if they were alive today, would call this voluntary enslavement to false impressions.
The problem is not that someone's life is objectively better than yours, but in a fundamental error of perception. You compare your complete, unedited, often chaotic and difficult inner state with another person's carefully selected, filtered, and staged external facade. You see the result, but you don't see the price that was paid for it. We suffer because we compare our difficult backstage reality with someone else's grand stage under the spotlights. Stoicism teaches us to work with our impressions, with what the Greeks called phantasiae. When you see a photo of a perfect vacation, an impeccable body, or a dizzying career success, your brain instantly and erroneously constructs a story of that person's cloudless and constant happiness. But this is a false judgment to which you carelessly give assent. You don't see the loans taken for that luxurious vacation. You don't see the exhausting diets or health problems behind that body. And you don't see the loneliness that may be hidden behind that wide, white-toothed smile. Marcus Aurelius, in his meditations, constantly reminded himself to look deeply into things, to break them down into their components, to see their true, often prosaic nature. In the context of social networks, this means a rigorous awareness that the news feed is not a documentary about reality, but a marketing brochure. The envy that arises from this comparison, according to Stoic philosophy, is an admission that you value external attributes, fame, wealth, visual polish, more than your own character, reason, and virtue. By envying a picture on the internet, you literally admit what he has externally is more important than who I am internally. This is a betrayal of yourself and your nature. Seneca wisely noted that no one can be happy if they suffer at the sight of someone happier. Social media algorithms are specifically tuned to bombard you with peak moments of other success, causing a chronic feeling of inadequacy, because a person dissatisfied with themselves is an ideal consumer, to whom it is easy to sell solutions to their imagined problems. The Stoic approach here is not necessarily to delete all accounts and enter digital asceticism, although sometimes that is useful, but to fundamentally change your perspective. Learn to look at these pictures as indifferent things. Let someone else's success be for you simply a neutral fact, like clouds in the sky or the color of grass, and not a cause for self-flagellation. Remember that reality is always more complex, multifaceted, and often harder than any, even the most beautiful Instagram profile, and your only task is to cultivate your own garden, value your own reality, and not allow others' illusions to steal your peace of mind. Let's move on to one of the most powerful concepts capable of healing modern neuroses. We all know this feeling. You open your feed and see someone closing a multi-million-dollar deal, someone drinking coffee with a view of the Eiffel Tower, and someone celebrating another victory. A spring tightens inside. This is FOMO, the fear of missing out, the fear that real life is happening somewhere else while you are sitting here. Social networks are built on exploiting this fear, making us feel inadequate. But Stoicism has a radical antidote, which Friedrich Nietzsche later formulated as amor fati, or love of fate. This is not just passive resignation, and not a phrase like, "oh well, that's life," uttered with a heavy sigh. No, amor fati is an active, almost fierce acceptance of reality. It is the conviction that everything that happens to you, including boredom, difficulties, or absence from a trendy party, is not just permissible, but necessary. It is the best possible scenario for your development right now. Epictetus taught, "Do not demand that events happen as you wish,
but wish that they happen as they do happen, and your life will flow happily. Apply this to your smartphone.
When you feel a pang of envy or anxiety because you are missing out on trends or events, remember this principle. You are not missing anything because you are busy living your own destiny. The fact that you are not in Bali or at a conference right now means only one thing. By the laws of nature, your place is exactly here, in this room, with these tasks. And in this moment, your unique lesson is hidden. The fear of missing something important arises from the illusion that somewhere there exists an alternative, better version of your present. Social networks fuel this illusion with millions of pictures, but a Stoic knows that an alternative reality does not exist. There's only what is. To love fate means to stop bargaining with reality. It means looking at someone else's success in the feed not as a reproach to yourself, but as an indifferent fact that has no bearing on your path. Instead of tormenting yourself with thoughts of 1,000 lives you are not living, Amor Fati offers you to love the one life you have. This transforms the fear of missing out into the joy of being present in the moment. Next time, when you feel a pang of FOMO, try telling yourself, I love where I am. I love what I am doing now, even if I am just stuck in traffic or working on a complex report in silence. This is my fate. It is unique. It is tailored specifically for me, and I would not trade this moment for anyone else's. This way, you take power away from algorithms and return it to yourself. Let's turn to one of the most radical yet healing practices of Stoicism in the digital age. We call it informational asceticism. The very word asceticism conjures associations with monks, caves, and severe deprivation for many, but in ancient philosophy, ascesis primarily meant exercise, training, similar to what an athlete undergoes before competitions. In the context of our relationship with social networks, this is not self-punishment, but a conscious, strict diet for the mind, necessary for survival. Think about this. If you ate non-stop from morning to night, shoveling in everything, your body would quickly break down. But this is exactly what we do daily with our brains, feeding them gigabytes of content without the slightest pause for digestion and assimilation. Seneca warned 2,000 years ago that reading many authors and books of various kinds is akin to wandering, saying that he who is everywhere is nowhere. Today, this principle is more relevant than ever. Informational asceticism is the art of saying no to unnecessary noise. It is a voluntary rejection of the neurotic urge to know everything about everyone and to be aware of every microscopic event in the world. It is the ability to skip a trending news story, not check a red notification, and leave the phone in another room, feeling not the anxiety of missing out, but a profound sense of liberation. The Stoics taught us that true freedom is not the ability to do everything one wants, but the ability to control one's desires. When you practice informational asceticism, you reclaim sovereignty over your own attention. You begin to notice that mental health recovers literally before your eyes when the constant background hum of other people's opinions, advertising calls, and edited lives disappears. Modern man is accustomed to panicking at the thought of emptiness and silence, immediately filling them with podcasts, music, or feed scrolling. But Stoicism reminds us that it is precisely in silence that our own thoughts are born. It is in the pauses between consuming information that it is processed and transformed into wisdom. Therefore, try to perceive this voluntary abstention not as a loss of connection with the world, but as an acquisition of space. Space for deep work, for genuine, not digital presence with loved ones, and most importantly, for an honest dialogue with yourself.
This is a path from reactive consumption, imposed from the outside, to proactive creation, where you yourself, like a strict gatekeeper, choose what to fill your mind with, guided by usefulness and virtue, rather than the whim of a soulless algorithm. We turn to one of the most powerful and often misunderstood Stoic practices, which becomes vitally necessary in the age of endless scrolling. This is premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. It sounds grim, but in reality, it is your only reliable psychological armor against information shock and anxiety. Let's face it, we usually open social networks or news apps with a subconscious hope for entertainment, for easy dopamine, or just to kill time. And when in this relaxed state, we suddenly stumble upon news of disasters, wars, crises, or someone's cruelty, our psyche takes a hit. We are not ready. We react sharply, emotionally,
panic or anger engulfs us because we expected comfort but received chaos. The Stoics proposed to act precisely the opposite. Seneca said that a blow we foresaw comes softer. Misfortune weighs heaviest on those who expected only good fortune. In the context of digital hygiene, this means the following. Before clicking on a social media icon or news website, you must take a momentary mental pause. You must tell yourself, I am now entering a space where I will most likely see stupidity, aggression, injustice, lies, or human suffering. I may see a headline that tries to scare me, or a comment that tries to insult me. This does not mean you should be a pessimist or be depressed. It means you put on a protective suit before entering a radiation zone. You accept the nature of the internet as it is in advance. Algorithms are designed to evoke emotions, most often negative ones, because they better hold attention. By using premeditatio malorum, you deprive negative news of its main weapon, the element of surprise. When you have already allowed for the possibility of the worst, the encounter with that worst no longer knocks the ground out of under your feet. Instead of exclaiming, "Oh my God, what a nightmare, how is this even possible?" your prepared mind calmly states, "Ah, here it is, I knew this was possible, I was ready for it." Such preparation creates distance between you and the event. You stop being a victim of the information flow and become an observer. This allows you to keep your mind cool. If the news truly requires your participation, you will be able to act effectively, based on reason, not hysteria. And if it's another clickbait or something you cannot influence, your mental armor will simply deflect that blow, and you will move past it, preserving your peace of mind. Remember that the world is unpredictable and often cruel, but your reaction to it is entirely within your power if you have prepared in advance. We approach one of the most toxic and complex areas of the internet, the comments section. This is where our philosophy is most often tested for resilience. Stoics consider justice one of the 4 cardinal virtues, but how can it be applied where trolling, insults, and anonymous aggression reign? Justice in the Stoic understanding is not just following laws, it is treating other people as equal parts of a unified whole, even if their behavior seems unreasonable to us. When you open the text input field to respond to someone's provocative post, remember the words of Marcus Aurelius: "The best way to avenge yourself is not to be like the one who inflicted the injury." In the digital world, this means refusing mirror aggression. If you are insulted, and retaliatory insult does not restore justice, it only multiplies evil and destroys your own peace of mind. A Stoic understands that an opponent's rudeness is not a personal attack against you, but evidence of their own pain, ignorance, or lack of upbringing. Your task is not to win an argument, but to preserve your human dignity.
Honesty in online communication also requires deep reflection. Being honest does not mean spewing out everything that comes to mind, hiding behind the phrase, "I'm just speaking the truth." Stoic honesty always goes hand in hand with benevolence. Before you hit send, ask yourself, what is my true motivation? Am I writing this to help a person see their mistake, or to indulge my ego, gather likes, and feel intellectually superior? If your goal is to humiliate, then even formally true words become a vice. Maintaining virtue in comments also means knowing when to stop. Seneca said that truth does not need to shout. If you see that a dialogue is turning into a senseless squabble, the most just decision for yourself and your time will be silence. Withdrawing from a toxic discussion is not a defeat. It is a manifestation of self-mastery. You choose not to feed someone else's anger and not to spend your resources on what you cannot change. Remember that there are real people on the other side of the screen, even if they behave like algorithms of hatred. Stoic justice requires us to see them as fellow rational beings, even if misguided. Next time your fingers reach to write an angry retort, pause. Consider whether your comment will benefit the common good, or if it will simply add noise to an already chaotic digital world. Being virtuous online is a quiet feat that no one will notice, but which will keep your soul pure. We approach what is perhaps the most sobering and powerful concept of Stoicism, which may seem radical but works flawlessly. This is memento mori. Remember that you are mortal. At first glance, it might seem strange to treat news anxiety with thoughts of death, but let's delve deeper. Doomscrolling is essentially an endless attempt to control an uncontrollable future through the greedy consumption of information. We scroll through feeds in search of safety, trying to anticipate threats, but in the process, we lose the only thing we actually possess, the present time. Seneca, in his treatise on the shortness of life, wrote that people live as if they are immortal. We squander hours and days as if this resource is infinite and worthless. But the truth is, when you fall down the rabbit hole of negative news or meaningless short videos, you are not just killing time, you are killing a part of your life that will never return.
The Stoics offer a harsh but effective thought experiment that instantly pulls you out of digital hypnosis. Imagine that you know for sure that this year is the last of your life, or this month. Would you spend 3 hours of this precious, rapidly dwindling remainder on reading venomous comments under a post about politics? Would you worry about a stranger's success on the internet, or be frightened by headlines you cannot influence in any way, knowing that your own life's feed is about to end? Obviously not. All this informational husk instantly loses its weight. Marcus Aurelius said, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." And we would add, let it determine your content. The awareness of mortality is not depression. It is ultimate clarity of priorities. It makes time precious. When you truly feel the finitude of your path, the smartphone screen stops being a window to the world and begins to look like what it often is during moments of doom scrolling, a thief of your existence. Memento mori transforms the abstract concept of time into a concrete currency, which is foolish to burn in the furnace of algorithms. Therefore, next time your hand habitually reaches to refresh the feed in search of another dose of anxiety, ask yourself one simple question. Am I willing to exchange an irreplaceable piece of my only life for this information? If the answer is no, lock the screen and return to reality while you still have it. Let's move from theory to concrete practice. Stoicism is not just a set of beautiful quotes. It is primarily the art of action.
Philosophy is useless if it does not change your behavior in the real world. Therefore, right now, we will draw up a step-by-step digital detox plan, but we will do it not as modern life coaches, but as students of Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius. Your task is not just to put down the phone, but to reclaim mastery over your own mind. The first step is radical honesty, or a Stoic audit. Seneca taught that we must keep a strict account of our time because it is the only resource that cannot be replenished. Open the screen time statistics on your smartphone. Don't make excuses. Don't say it was for work if it wasn't. Look at the numbers. 3, 4, 6 hours a day? Multiply that by days, months, and years. This is the time of your life that you have voluntarily given to algorithms. Realize this fact without emotion, but with complete clarity. This is your starting point. The second step is hygiene of impressions. The Stoics believed that we become what we consume. If you eat garbage, your body suffers. If you consume informational noise, your mind suffers. Perform a cleanse. Unsubscribe from all accounts that cause you envy, anger, feelings of inadequacy, or simply steal your attention without benefit. Keep only what makes you wiser, stronger, or calmer. Turn off all notifications except the vital ones. A notification is an attempt by the outside world to unceremoniously invade your inner space. Don't let every app tug at your strings like a puppet. The third step is the morning protocol. Marcus Aurelius began his day by tuning his consciousness, not by reading the news of Rome. Your rule must be ironclad. The first hour after waking up, no screen. No exceptions. Use this time to set yourself for the day. Jot down thoughts. Simply drink water in silence. If you start your morning by reacting to others' posts and messages, you have already lost the battle for your day. You have become led, not leading. Buy a regular alarm clock and remove your phone from the bedroom. The bedroom is the fortress of your peace. The fourth step is the practice of pause. This is a key point of Stoic discipline. There must be a gap between impulse and action. When your hand reaches for the phone in a queue, in an elevator, or during a work break, stop. Ask yourself, why am I doing this? Do I really want to get important information, or am I just running from boredom and anxiety? If there's no answer, don't unlock the screen. Learn to endure boredom. It is in silence and the absence of stimulation that true thoughts are born. And the fifth step is memento mori, remember death. Every time you are about to spend an hour mindlessly scrolling through your feed, remember that the number of your hours on this earth is limited. Are you willing to exchange this irreplaceable hour of your only life for watching short videos? Sometimes the answer will be yes, if it brings you genuine joy and rest, but most often the answer will be no. Use technology as a tool, as a sword that serves you, not as a chain that binds you. This plan is not a diet for a week. It is a restructuring of your attitude towards reality. Start small, but be persistent. We are approaching the finale, and here lies perhaps the most important line of defense for your mind: evening. A time when our willpower is exhausted and the hand automatically reaches for the smartphone to get the last dose of cheap dopamine before sleep. But from a Stoic perspective,
Bringing the newsfeed into your bed is like throwing open the doors of your home to a noisy crowd of strangers right before going to sleep. You voluntarily give the last minutes of your waking hours to algorithms that care nothing for your peace of mind. Seneca offered an alternative that has worked for 2,000 years and is more relevant than ever today. This is the Evening Philosophical Diary.
It's not just a sentimental record of the day's events, it's a strict court session of conscience where you act as both prosecutor, defender, and judge. As soon as you put your phone in another room, and this is a mandatory condition, and pick up a paper notebook and pen, a mode switch occurs. Instead of consuming content, you move to analyzing it. You ask yourself, what threw me off balance today? Did I envy someone else's success after seeing their story? Did I engage in a meaningless argument in the comments, allowing anger to steal my time? Where did I show weakness, and where did I act with dignity? When you transfer these thoughts to paper, you literally offload them from your working memory. You objectify your anxieties, transforming them from shapeless, frightening shadows into simple lines of ink over which you have power. A phone before bed stimulates the nervous system with blue light and informational noise, making the brain process other people's lives all night. A diary, however, calms the mind, returning control over your own life and drawing a line under the past day. The sleep that follows such an honest review becomes deep and truly restorative, because you fall asleep not with other people's opinions in your head, but with a clear conscience and a clear understanding of who you are and how to become better tomorrow. We have reached the end of our great journey. Now, looking back, it becomes clear that Stoicism is not a dusty philosophy from history textbooks, but perhaps the most relevant operating system for the human mind in the 21st century. The digital age presents us with challenges that neither Seneca nor Marcus Aurelius faced. They had to contend with political intrigues, wars, and diseases, while we must daily fight for the most precious things we possess, our attention and the ability to think autonomously. Forming an unyielding character today does not require you to retreat to a cave or delete all accounts. True strength of spirit is manifested in being at the epicenter of the information storm, yet remaining absolutely unshakable within. Your smartphone, social networks, endless news feeds, all of this, as the Stoics would say, falls into the category of indifference. These are merely external circumstances. They become good or evil only depending on how you use them and how you react to them. If you allow others' successes to cause you envy and algorithms to dictate your mood, you voluntarily put on shackles. If, however, you use these platforms for learning, creating, and connecting with loved ones while maintaining the sovereignty of your personality, you gain true freedom. Remember that every time you consciously put down your phone to be in silence alone with yourself, you strengthen the walls of your inner citadel. Every time you choose not to write an angry reply to a provocative comment, you practice the highest virtue of restraint. We live in an astonishing time when one can become a philosopher simply by not losing one's mind in the endless stream of notifications. May your character be tougher than the protective glass of your screen, and your mind cleaner than your feet after a thorough clearing of subscriptions. The choice always remains exclusively yours, to react or to be aware, to mindlessly consume or to create, to be led by statistical figures or to be a free person. And right now, I invite you to make a conscious choice that will support not only this channel, but also the dissemination of common sense online. If this video has helped you look at your relationship with the digital world in a new way, if it has given you tools to find peace, do a simple action. Like this video so that algorithms see the value in Stoic wisdom, and be sure to subscribe to the channel by clicking the bell. This way you won't miss the next steps on the path to mental freedom. Thank you for giving us your most valuable time, and see you soon.